Makaukaw, kami kapu. Talimay kaua. Tahale o kalehua e halile hua no ia na hano o ka uno e hano e haliane hoi tai timai he timai no lu he di pu no me ke alo Ku kolko mai kai o ke akua. A me ka launa. Kua nuka uhane he molele me ka ko a pau. E ko mako maku ilo ko kalani. E buadui o ko inoa. E hiki mai ko ao puni. E malama ia ko o maki mako nua nei. E liki me ia. E malama ia makalani ra. May the Lord God bless you and keep you. May God's face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. And may God lift up his countenance upon all of you and give you peace, both now and forevermore. Amen.
Amen.
Makakaw, kanikapu, paukan. Let the celebration begin. Now, let me ask you one thing. How many of you know what this means? Hang loose. Yeah. That's for the tourists. For our people, this means aloha. So you all repeat after me. I'll let you know meaning of aloha. Aloha means always.
Always.
Love.
Love.
Over.
Over.
Hate.
Hate.
Always.
Always.
No more Hawaiians. No more aloha. But no more akua. God. No more love. So with that said, aloha to you all.
Yes. Thank you, Joe. Aloha, everyone. Welcome to the third annual Hot Topics community meeting to discuss the housing shortages for the sheltered, unsheltered, houseless, and homeless. At this time, I would like to also thank you, Joe. You basically put all of this for yourself. Akaku, Zeke, our board of directors who are here today, Foreste, John, and Joe, and of course the panel, which Joe will be introducing to you more later on. A little housekeeping, I guess, would be restrooms are outside, and also we do have a recycle bin in the back there. So if you could help us with the recycle, we appreciate it very much. One thing I would like to ask also is that for those of you who's not aware of what we do with the West Maui Taxpayer Association, is that we have been in existence since 1974. Most of you probably do not know the many things that we have done to help to make it better for us here in Lahaina. We are, of course, always operating in a shoestring budget. So, if you could help us so that we can have a much better voice, not only in the county of Maui, but for the state of Hawaii, we could make Lahaina even a better place. There's a whole list of what our accomplishments are, but the one big thing that I would like to share with you, which probably most of you are not aware of, is the Napili fire station. Without the West Maui Taxpayer Association, that fire station would not be there today. The other thing that it's not a big deal, but to those people that drives up on the bypass, we kind of like laugh at it, but it was first put up there. The speed limit was, I believe, was what, 35 miles per hour? 30 miles per hour, which is slower than the road below. If it wasn't for West Maui Taxpayer Association, probably that speed limit would still be there. So it just doesn't magically appear. I mean, I'm sorry for the state employees here or what have you, but there is a problem for us here on West Maui that we have people over on Oahu who's making all these decisions for us over here, not really understanding what we go through here on Maui, more so here in Lahaina. So sometimes we feel like that forgotten stepchild, but thanks to the West Maui Taxpayer Association, to the hardworking board, and especially to Joe Pluta here, appreciate all the work you're doing. So yeah, we have a whole list over here, and if I were to read this, then it'll be 7:30 by the time I get done, but please. Also, if any one of you would like to serve as a member of the board, we do have an opening, several actually, and we meet every second Tuesday of the month at 8 o'clock in the morning. And yeah, we would love for you to join us and help us make a change here here in Lahaina. So again, thank you so much for joining us today. And oh, where's Art? Art, thank you for the wonderful food. As always, you come through for the West Maui Taxpayer Association. So again, thank you very much. Joe?
Thank you, Rick. So what Rick was referring to was our goals and accomplishments brochure, which we have over here. We have an information table back there. I invite you all to take a look at that, pick up some of those brochures and literature about what the West Maui Taxpayers has been doing. And it's awesome. One of the things that wasn't on our list for so many years was the topic of what we're here about tonight. 3 years ago, we decided, it was declared by the governor of the state of Hawaii that homelessness was a disaster and a crisis for the state of Hawaii. Those of us who have been living here knew that years ago, before that, but it was finally declared a disaster and a crisis for the state of Hawaii. And one of the things that encourages me is that once they declare something a disaster, then we got a shot of getting some action done. It seems like all of a sudden when there's a disaster declaration and a crisis designation by the government, then even though some of us know that it had been pre-existing for quite some time, when that is finally and officially made, action begins to happen. And action did begin to happen. You know, we were very fortunate to reach out to a group called the Maui Homeless Alliance and ask if we could get more information about what they've been doing, and we're so impressed. What a phenomenal group of different agencies and organizations were assembled together in that Homeless Alliance. I was just privileged to be in such a room with people who were so compassionate, caring, and sensitive, and dedicated to serving the people who needed help the most and sacrificing themselves to that end. Phenomenal thing. They're having a meeting tomorrow at noon, and it's open to the public. I get excited every time I go there and listen to the accomplishments this wonderful group's made over the last several years. And with us, a lot of those people who are on that group and that panel are with us tonight. And the two current chairman people, Maud Cummings and Thelma. So I'd like to invite our panel members to start coming up to the stage. And Rick, would you help me put liaison on them? I was going to need a assistant up here to be laying them. So you're the president assistant is pretty good. I saw her just coming in the room, Leah Belmonte. Leah, where are you at? There she is, back there, she's Maui governor's representative. Would you give her a big hand, Leah? She lives on the other side. Anytime somebody who lives on the other side is willing to come over here from government to one of our meetings, I'm impressed. And when I called her to come over, she said, Joe, I'm going to try my best to come. And here she is. Thank you, Leah. It's really also great to know that you can contact her. It's so hard to get hold of people in the state of Hawaii for different reasons. But when you call Leah, believe it or not, she will help you and facilitate you through her office of a way to get the attention or set you in the right direction to give you the help you need. So she's a real treasure for us here. Thank you, Leah. So in no particular order, Maud Cummings, you want to come up, please? Thelma next, and then we got Monique Yamashita and Buddy Almeida. And we got David Nakama And you can move those around to anywhere you want. You don't have to worry about fitting in the name tag. David, Joyce Kawakami, and is that all? We got somebody at the end table. The tables are a little shorter, so we got somebody at the end. It's going to be cozy. Spread your chairs around, make yourself comfortable, and you can move the name tag to any place you'd like. Maud is not, David. Awesome, and we invite those of you who are here, we've gotten questions that have been presented to us since we've been advertising these things for each of them. Few questions have been submitted, which I'll be using to start with. But if any of you would like to make sure that your question is being asked, we have these little 3x5 cards at the table over there. Please go over there to the table, grab a card, write your question out, and give it to me. I'll make sure that it's being covered by someone here at the table. Kaloa Robinson, there you are. Can I get a female here to help me, Kaloa? Oh. Sorry. Okay, there you go. Aloha, Kaloa. Kaloa's with the Kahoma Village subdivision here, Stanford Car Development. And, I'm sorry? Is Angus come in? Oh, Angus. Hi, Angus. Angus McKelvey. Thank you. Give him a big hand, Angus McKelvey. I'm so glad you're here, Angus. Our state representative for West Maui. He's always at meetings running around, and so glad that you're here. Thank you, Angus. Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you. We just, we're saying nice things about the state before you our communications. You know, whatever, I know Angus knows because he's similar challenges. We've been talking with him and for years. You know, West Maui is such a small little teeny community isolated here, and we're one storm away from being totally cut off from everything. It's being that kind of isolation and that kind of situation for so long has let a lot of us get closer and closer together and see different things we could do and work on together. And Angus has been part of that for many, many years. He's familiar. He's done a lot of great things working in collaboration with our senator from West Maui, Ross Baker. The two of them has teamed up because they need to team up. When you go to Honolulu and you want to try to get things for Maui and they say, where are you from? West Maui? The votes are stacked against you. It's hard to get anything. But they've done a great job for us, and we're very appreciative to Angus and Ross. Thank you very much, Angus. Well, this is a subject that, again, I said it was declared a crisis 3 years ago. We understand Scott Morishige, who's the governor's state representative for homelessness at that time, was appointed to office, and he's still very, very busy guy, doing a lot of things over there. We've asked him to come, and he said he couldn't make it this time. But the county of Maui stepped up, and they took the vision of hiring a gentleman named David Nakama, a homeless program coordinator, Department of Housing and Human Concerns for the county of Maui. And we're so glad that our county of Maui did that, and to have him join our team. Thank you so much. Welcome, David. And as we go down to the panel, I could talk about all of you because I love you so much, all the things you do for us. It's wonderful. But can you give us just a short little introduction of who you are and what your job is? And the microphones, just turn the thing on. Thank you.
Hello. Well, hello. Thank you for inviting me over and to share what we're doing with the county. And well, just a background on myself. It's I just started this job this year, so it's quite a challenge. My friends tell me I'm crazy, and family tell me I'm crazy. It's like raising the Titanic, but you know, it's been okay. I've been a social worker for over 20 years with the state judiciary, so working with probation, working with child welfare services. So I have a lot of experience in the social work field, but this is something very different, though. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Joyce Kawakami. I'm the volunteer founder, CEO, board secretary, and janitor for Feed My Sheep, and have been for 18 years. Oh, I'm sorry. I've lost track. Started off as a small organization, getting food to a few kids in a youth group from the trunk of my car until we've grown. And during the Great Recession, we gave food to 9,500. Now, because unemployment is way down, we're down to 3,200 people in the community. You know us very well in Lahaina. We've been coming out here for, I think, 12 years. So that's me. On to Maud.
Hello, my name is Maud Cumming, and I'm the Executive Director for Family Life Center. I'm also the co-chair for the Maui Homeless Alliance, and our organization, Family Life Center, offers an array of services, including outreach services, emergency shelter, and some housing, permanent supportive housing for people with disabilities that are chronically homeless. And we're out there on the streets looking for people, getting people into housing, and our goal is to end homelessness.
Good evening, everyone. It feels like deja vu. It feels like I was here about a week ago doing almost the exact same thing. My name is Kaloa Robinson. I'm the project manager for the Kahoma Village project developed by Stanford Car Development. Joe, this is, I think, the third time I've been here, so thank you very much for having me, and I look forward to telling you guys about affordable housing, Kahoma Village, and what we can do to make more of it. Thanks.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Monique Yamashita, and I'm the Executive Director for Kahaleakeola Homeless Resource Centers. Thank you, Joe, for inviting me, and I'm glad to be back again this year as well. Our agency, I'm actually really proud to be a part of the West Side community. We have our shelter here on Ipu Amakua Lane. So we have an emergency shelter, transitional shelter, and affordable housing here on the West Side. And then we also have emergency shelter, transitional shelter, and affordable housing on the central side as well in Wailuku. And I'm just glad to be here, and I hope I can answer any questions that you have. Thank you.
Aloha and good evening. My name is Thelma Akita Kealoha, and I'm the Maui Community Director for Catholic Charities Hawaii. And our office is in Wailuku, and we offer a number of services for prevention services, financial assistance for homeless prevention. We do financial assistance for past due utilities. We have a OHA grant that's available to us for people who can prove that they're part Hawaiian, and this is for emergencies as well. And this funding is really flexible because it can pay for deposit, first month's rent, it can pay for past due mortgage. So it's way more flexible than our other funds, it's specifically for people who are Native Hawaiian. I am also a part of the Maui Homeless Alliance and the co-chair for that alliance. And thank you for inviting me.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Buddy Almeida. I'm the housing administrator for Maui County. I work in partnership with our director. You probably are more familiar with, Carol Ryman. Unfortunately, she couldn't be here tonight, so I'm her replacement for the evening. A little bit about what we do in housing. We do everything from managing the Section 8 home voucher program assistance, as well as basically I'm in charge of all of the housing projects that are currently ongoing in the county of Maui. Basically overseeing that developers are complying with their affordability requirements and doing the monitoring there. We also oversee all of the affordable housing programs through my office. So we do a lot of monitoring, oversee a lot of funding that goes into projects for Maui County, and we help facilitate those processes. So very happy to be here this evening. Nice to talk to some of you earlier, and looking forward to answering any questions to the best of my ability. Thank you.
Thank you. This is very high-powered. Thank you so much. Okay, well, thank you, Zeke. Zeke Kalua. Thank you, Zeke, for helping us with the sound over here. Zeke's the mayor's assistant, and he also has a DJ business, and he's related to me, too. Got to give him a plug. I can see my son, Zeke. His mom's back there in the corner, Carol. God bless her. Anyway, thank you, Zeke, for you're doing a great job. And Akaku, I want to thank Akaku officially for taping this for rebroadcast. I'm seeing, based upon this attendance, it's good that we're going to have this ability to have this event rebroadcast, and it'll be on a perpetual link that people will be able to go to www.westmaui.org and click on the Hot Topics panel. There's two of them right there right now. The very first one we did 3 years ago, the one last year, and this one will be joining there too, so that people will be able to see the progress that we made over this time. I think we'll start back here on this side with you, David. You're in the new hot seat in the county of Maui. You want to give us a brief explanation of the coordinated entry system and the county's role in it.
Check, test. So I was saying that Joe's question was about the coordinated entry system is what it's, if you know the Housing First approach, it's the operational arm of the Housing First approach where the basis is getting people into housing first and then working on the issues with wraparound services. So it's not a step up to get housing, it's get the housing first and then deal with the issues. That's the basis of Housing First, but for coordinated entry, it's a computer-based system where we have a database of all the homeless people that are assessed with a common assessment tool by the agencies here like Family Life Center and Kahalea Keola. They do assessments with the clientele and they get scored. And when they get scored and placed in the database, the system prioritizes them by need. So we're attacking or focusing on the most highest need people first. So the agencies aren't picking and choosing the low-hanging fruit anymore. It's we do the county does the assigning of which client is next to be housed. So it's a very objective system. It's not subjective anymore where, you know, it's naturally you're gonna work with people that are easier to work with. So that's out the door. So now it's all, you're getting the toughest ones now. And those tough ones are the ones that are using up most of the resources. They're the small percentage that use up most of the resources. So if we can get them housed and stabilized, that would free up the resources for the majority below. So, you know, for example, when I say use up resources, the Maui Medical Emergency Room, Emergency Department said in fiscal year 2016, in servicing the homeless, it cost them over $10 million that you know, we all ate. So that's the kind of stuff that, and that's only not very many people, but you know, those are the frequent users of ER services. And you know, also that goes along with they're getting arrested, so it takes up the police resources, the judicial system, you know, so that's the people we're focusing on getting housed first. So that's the basis of the coordinated entry system. So it's a computer-based system that the county is the keeper of the list of people, and we do the assignments to the agencies.
Thank you, David. I'm going to come back to you again. We'll have another question for you later, but to keep everybody awake here, we're going to move it right down the road here. The next, Joyce Kawakami, Chief Executive Officer, Founder, Board Member, Feed My Sheep. One, you state in your information that you give healthy food to all that you serve. How do you accomplish this?
Well, we concentrate specifically on healthier choices. We spend our time harvesting food, picking up food from restaurants and places like that. We have moved as much as 22,000 pounds of fresh produce weekly. Now it'll go anywhere from 10,000 to 22,000, but it's a lot of fresh produce. And not only that, and I see that Councilman Cochran is here. We work with the County of Maui, and they give us funding, which we buy the protein and the carbohydrates, healthy protein and carbohydrates, to make sure they get a balanced diet. And one thing that people aren't aware of, unless they read our reports, is that we survey our people as well. We do two things. One, we've had staff members take the food home to make sure it's enough. We survey people and ask them three questions. One is, three major questions. One is, are you getting enough to get enough meals for the week? And over 98% of them say yes, they do. We've asked them, how's your health doing? Is it better because of the food you say? And then again, same percentages, well over 90% say they have their health has improved. And then we ask another question, does your doctor agree with you? And 50% of those who have responded that their health has improved say yes, their doctors have agreed, which shows differences in blood pressure, high cholesterol, heart disease, energy to do work. There's one gentleman, homeless man, Johnny, many of you have seen him, but not lately as a homeless person, because for years he came to us and it was difficult to have healthy food, so we gave mostly snacks, you know, candy, chips, whatever we could get. And that's what he liked. But he was homeless and he didn't work. He didn't have the energy or the strength or the physical ability to work. Well, last year he came to us. I mean, he started coming back a while before that, only because he needed food. He was hungry. And this was forced help. We hate to force anybody with anything, but that's what we have. So he started eating the food. He started feeling better. He got a job. Now he talks to everybody about us. He loves the food. We have our little market as well, which is geared for the poor. They get a 75% discount off of mostly organic, healthy food. And so he comes to our market now. He doesn't go for the free food, and he's working and living in a home. So yeah, it's huge, the difference in health because of what we do.
Thank you, Joyce. I'm going to come back to you again with another question later, but moving right along to Maud, which right into Maud's question we have for her. We've been hearing a lot about the housing first concept. Could you share with us what you think what that's all about, Maud?
So I think David shared a little bit about it, but it is that housing is a right. It's not a reward for compliant behavior. So we really had to change our model because we want to get people into housing quicker and have them retain the housing. And so we have, it used to be that the model would be somebody goes from outreach, goes into emergency shelter, and then they stabilize, and you get them into housing. We are housing people directly from the streets. The governor released some money in May, Housing First program, to help the chronically homeless, and those are people who are have been unsheltered homeless or on the streets for at least 12 months, have a disability, or they have had 4 or more episodes in the last 3 years. So in the last 2 weeks, we housed 11 chronically homeless individuals. So 5 of them were in our shelter, 6 were on the streets. So 3 of the households had been homeless for 15 years. So, and we've been working with them for most of those 15 years and just had a lot of barriers. But we really had to change our thinking and believe for people that they can get housed, they can stay housed. And the people that are getting housed are very excited because really they had lost hope. And as they're getting housed, they're telling their friends, and so now their friends are coming to us and say, really, you can get me housed, because they don't believe it, because they've lived like that for so long. So we're really targeting the chronically homeless to get the people that are, building little makeshift structures all over the place, get them into housing. And as David said, it's 10% of the population are chronically homeless that use up 50% of the resources. So we want to get that population in housing. It's very difficult. It's hard a real work starts once the person gets housed, because we don't stop there. As you can imagine, after 15 years, there's a lot of adjusting to do. So our case management services continue on from there. So we're really working hard to impact what you see on the streets. We believe that there is going to be an end to it, and that we have to map out all our resources so that we know exactly what we have, so that if anybody does become homeless, that it's a short and rare occurrence.
Thank you very much, Maud. We're going to be coming back to you with other questions later. Monique is right next. Oh, David, I'm assuming Kaloa. We're not going to skip over you. Kaloa Robinson, thanks for coming back for the 3rd year in a time we've been supporting the building of the Kahoma Village for quite some time, the West Maui taxpayers, because we need more workforce housing. We need more housing for our residents who are driving. There's 7,000 cars a day driving to West Maui. 7,000 cars a day on the road. People who would love to live here and rent here or own here. People's dream is to own a home. And a lot of them dreams are going to be coming true for some of those are lucky enough. Kaloa, can you tell us, I have a first question, how much housing do we need to build to satisfy the demand, and what do we need to get there?
Joe, I'm happy to be here every time you guys see fit to have me up on this stage. So see you next year too, I guess. As far as how many units we need, I was up here last week with Director Ryman, and we were talking about the exact same thing. It's about 10,000 units by 2025. I think right now we have about 2,000 in the pipe, more around as far as building permits go. So we've got a 80% shortfall. And I guess we could rattle out all the numbers all night long. And I guess the answer to the question is not enough. And it really doesn't matter what the numbers are, because it's such a deep hole that we'll be digging out of this thing for far longer than 2025. Right up until everyone decides that, you know what, I don't want to live in Maui anymore, I can't afford it. And we lose our teachers, police officers, firefighters, et cetera. If we're really looking at what do we have to do to increase our housing capacity to house these people, I'm only thinking about the 80% to 140% AMI, the people earning between $60,000 and $100,000 a year. Because the lower income stuff is a different animal. At that point, you need free land and low income housing tax credits and all sorts of other things. But just to get our workforce, the people earning a decent living wage but still can't afford a house, we need to really look at our infrastructure and how we're allocating funds to things like sewer capacity, fixing roads, widening roads, show me the water. We need to look at that and stop shifting the onus for water allocation to private developers, because all that's going to do is continue to commoditize the water process, and suddenly you've got 6 or 7 wealthy landowners / developers controlling most of the water on Maui, which isn't something that we want. In partnership with the planning department, we need to look at streamlining the process, such as updating the community plan, which is what the planning department is looking at right now, and I commend them for coming out and getting input from the community to try and achieve that goal. We're going to have to, at some point, look at density, because we only have so much developable land, and if we want to keep the country, we need to have focused development in urban areas, and that's going to mean looking at height restrictions and density. It's not going to mean that you're building 400-foot high-rises in Lahaina or Kahului or anything like that, but it does mean that you start looking at maybe 40-foot buildings or other creative opportunities to increase the amount of people per acre. And then at the very end, we do need to start looking at rental units, because we can do all this affordable housing, all these affordable housing programs, but at the end of the day, if you don't have a down payment, if you don't have a deposit, which many people in this income category don't have, or they have credit card debt or other things that make it difficult for them to qualify for a loan, then their only choice is to rent until they can climb the housing ladder. So until we look at those 4 main things, we're going to be in this hole, and it's going to be a tougher and tougher hole to get out of.
Thank you very much, Kaloa. We'll come back to you again later. I know that right next, Monique, how has your agency addressed the need for permanent affordable housing on the west side?
Thank you, Joe. So back in 2005, many of you know, we opened our affordable housing units, our low-income housing units. So we actually have 30 units here on the west side. It's at Ipu Amakua Lane, so right next door to our homeless shelter. We have 30 units. They're 2-bedroom units, and they are at about $830 per month. So someone would have to qualify to enter into those units. But that's one way that we have addressed the affordable housing issue on the west side. And then I'll also speak a little bit later about how our homeless shelter actually is very housing focused now. And we have staff that actually go out and look for.
Keep rolling.
So that was one of the other issues I was going to address. Our shelter is very housing focused now. We haven't always been like that. We actually changed our model this year, where everything's about housing. So resident that comes into our homeless shelter, all we're doing is working with them on housing, helping them increase their income, helping them with employment, getting them document ready. Those are all the items that we work on with our residents now. The amount of time that they stay at our shelter has significantly decreased. Before, we would have families that would stay up to 2 years in our transitional shelter, which meant we didn't have a lot of turnover. It was very slow turnover. We had families there for a long amount of time, and actually longer than they needed to be, and it didn't really help them as far as getting permanent housing. So now, everything we do, we have a housing navigator that will actually go out into the community and will meet with property managers, meet with landlords to work with them so we can help place our residents into that permanent housing. We have a housing retention specialist as well. So that specialist will also work with the tenant and the landlord to ensure that they're able to stay in housing, whatever that might mean. We might have residents that aren't used to being, or maybe they're not used to having people come and stay at their house. So our housing retention specialist will help the tenants to say, no, you can't bring extra people into your house to stay there. You have to abide by the lease agreement. So that's one of the new programs that we have at our agency. And I believe that's making a big dent as far as helping place homeless residents or the shelter residents into permanent housing. So yeah, that's one way that we're doing it.
Thank you very much, Monique. We'll come back to you again a little bit later. We're going to get right into Thelma. Thelma, what kind of services do you provide? And to follow that up, then as co-chair of the Maui Homeless Alliance, please tell us what about the continuum of care and Maui's involvement with the State Homeless Program Office with the Department of Human Services. Thank you.
Okay, I don't know if we're going to address the two at the same time. I'm going to skip over the services because we kind of went over that. The Maui Homeless Alliance is part of a larger continuum of care. Catholic Charities Hawaii doesn't offer a lot of homeless services. We're part of the Homeless Alliance. We feel and we're really committed to ending homelessness like the rest of the continuum is, like the rest of these organizations do. We have membership to anybody who's interested in joining. We have meetings on the third Wednesday of every month at noon. Unfortunately, it is on the other side, but you know, Joe makes it over almost every meeting, and he's very involved in the process. We are working together towards one end, and I have to say that this whole housing focus thing, it's something that we're all invested in, all of us. We're all working towards one end. And it takes more than just us, it takes the community as well. So, you know, we need you guys to hang in there with us and be part of it and support us while we do our work in the community. And this is not just Maui, this is Maui, the Big Island, and Kauai, because that's what we call the balance of state, because we don't have enough population like Oahu to be its own continuum. So you can imagine how difficult it is, 3 separate islands having one huge continuum as a charter, and in each island having a chapter. So we've been working together on this, and I have to say that we have some really outstanding people in that leadership at Bridging the Gap. Maud is one of them. A woman from the Big Island from Hope Services is another. And they've been just bringing us all this training about Housing First, about outreach, about how to work. We have somebody in the audience from Legal Aid Society, Kim. She's working with people to get them document ready so we can place them in housing. So,
Awesome. Thank you so much. Buddy Alameda. Buddy, we got a question for you here. What is the status of the pending projects on the west side?
Good evening again, everybody. As Kaloa mentioned, the numbers are, well, basically just staggering as far as what the current housing studies say that we need in order to meet the population demands that we currently face as a county and as a state. To kind of briefly summarize what a typical developer has to do, it is a very lengthy process. If you need to do entitlement changes, which means things like changes in zoning, or you have a community plan amendment, or you happen to be in a special management area where you need a special management area permit, You have to go through processes not only at the county level, but at the state level. Kaloa can probably speak more detailed. There are a lot of projects that have been pending for a long time on the west side. And really the only ones presently that are like what we call shovel ready, where they're actually have gone through all that process and they're ready with their vertical construction, they're ready to actually build. One of them is Stanford Carr's Colma Village project, which is 203 units total. The Kahoma Residential project, which is 68, it's a 100% affordable project. That project began basically operations to move towards where they're at now, which is construction back in 2003. Some of these take a tremendous amount of time, and a lot of developers can't afford to carry projects for this amount of time. The only other one that is presently ready to build is the Kaiaulu project, which is the Howard Kuhuni Senior and Junior project, Aina Pacific Development, which is right across the entrance from Kaanapali. It's 33 100% affordable single-family homes that are right there across from all those resorts on the mountainside. But I guess my point is that what we try to do at housing is, there's other projects out there, some that you've heard for, that go back many years. And what we try to do is keep those projects alive, facilitate the process of helping the developers manage all the stages they have to go through, whether it be the county, assist them what we can, at the state level, and try and keep these projects alive because, we are dependent upon the developers to be able to get them done, and we're very thankful for the Stanford Cars and others who pursue and can get projects developed, but we need obviously a lot more to get to the construction stage and actually see people in homes. And that's basically our mission, and we're hoping to see more of in the future.
Well, you're all on fire there. What is the county doing to assist in the development of affordable rental projects? Do you want to elaborate a little bit?
Yeah, specifically with regards to kind of the whole, I think, message, with regards to the issue of homelessness. Obviously, the end result for any family, any couple, when you're starting out, your dream in life is you want to own that single family home. Everybody wants to have that little piece of it. They want to have that piece of the pie. But unfortunately, especially in a demographic like Maui, like in the state of Hawaii, people just don't come right out of high school, right out of college, and are able to do that. What I've noticed in my tenure in the housing division is that, in speaking directly with developers, because the county itself is not a developer, so we speak to the developers. We try to learn basically what does it take to get more rental projects done, because basically all I hear is that rental projects are a money loser. Most developers do not want to get into the rental housing development process. So what we've tried to do, we've worked through the Maui County Council, and thanks to people like Member Cochran and others, we've been able to make changes to the ordinance that have made it a little bit more flexible to where it's a little more enticing for developers to come in and maybe look at rental projects a little bit more. Like if they build more than what their minimum requirement is, they can get rental housing credits. We try to facilitate and open up avenues for them. Kaloa touched on programs such as the low-income housing tax credit programs, because we need rental housing at the lowest income levels that we can touch, because that's where it all starts. And from there, we get people into rental housing. They start, their self-management. They hopefully can save for the down payment, which is one of the biggest impediments and hurdles to being able to purchase a home, especially in Hawaii. And then you eventually graduate to that stage of being able to own your own home. So it's a trickle down or trickle up effect, however you want to look at it, but we need more low-income rental projects being built just as much as we need affordable single-family homes. And our mission is to try and see more of those built.
Awesome. Thank you very much, buddy. Well, I want to remind everybody as I'm going to the next questions that we have these cards here at the table. If anybody has some questions, please, we have the Save the Front Street Apartments. I thank you for having that sign up there. I know that's an important topic issue. If you have any specific questions, if you could write them out in the card and bring it up here to me. You got some here? Somebody help collect those cards. Thank you.
There's one on the table too.
There's one on the table right here. Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you. Got some. Thank you so much. Thank you, Kathy. Thanks for for using this format. Oh, thank you very much. Okay, I want to go now back to Kaloa. Kaloa, one of the things I know I've been asked a lot is what is the current status of Kahoma Village, and when are we going to hear what the affordable housing is?
I just wanted to go on record as also thanking the county council for passing that amendment to that ordinance, and also to the Housing and Human Concerns, because, you know, they really went to bat for that as well. And it really affects us. It may not affect us here in West Maui, but we, you know, Catholic Charities Hawaii does have a housing development corporation, a nonprofit housing development corporation. And that ordinance is really going to help us because we also want to bring affordable housing. And we're talking about the 30 to 60% median income folks. Pray for us.
Thank you, Thelma.
Fingers crossed.
Okay, Kaloa, do you want to?
Yeah, and you know what? On the subject matter of 30% AMI and 60% AMI rentals, we built a 60% rental in Kaka'ako, where a 60% AMI rental in Kaka'ako, where a 3-bedroom unit rents for $1,500 a month, as opposed to right across the street at Keoho Place, where a rental unit rents for a 3-bedroom rents for $45,000 to $5,000 a month. And we're also in the process of breaking ground on a 30% AMI rental project called Hale Kewalo, which is right across the street from Ala Moana Shopping Center. Both in the, deep in the urban core. People don't have to drive that far to work, if at all. Some people at Ala Moana that work there, they can actually walk across the street to work. And I'll tell you what the key to those were, in addition to low-income housing tax credits, tax-exempt bonds, HUD financing, and a lot of brain damage, is free land. It's free land. Both of those projects, Halekuila Place got free land from the city, $1 a year lease, and Hale Kewalo, the land was given to or purchased by us at a very, very discounted price from A&B to satisfy their affordable housing requirements. So I mean that speaks to the challenges with rentals. It's not easy, and you have to have someone like Stanford and a few others that are just willing to put the effort in. As far as Kahoma Village, we're doing great. I'm having a great time out there. The dust screen's up, so you guys, we haven't been able to unveil everything out to the public just now, but we've framed, sheeted, roofed, and we've actually installed the drywall in 2 of the 6 units in our first workforce building. We're looking at moving in people in the first quarter of next year. We're starting our workforce process in December. It's a long process. There's a lot of paperwork on our side that we have to prepare. You have to educate the potential applicants, and they have to fill out a form, and then that form comes to us. We review it, make sure that everyone's qualified, pursuant to the statute and the ordinances, and then we have a lottery, and then that's how we equitably pick who gets to decide which unit they want to get. We already poured the foundation and started framing on our second multifamily building, and so that's 12 units we have in construction right now, and probably a third building starting in early December, and we have started working on 6 single-family units. So we're actually building out our affordables way ahead of our single families, and we're just about done wrapping up the site work at the end of the year. Getting this thing to start looking like a real project rather than just a piece of dirt.
So to help you, did you qualify? They had a question here. Did you qualify for a GE tax exemption? So the question was, why did you qualify for that with only 20 to 25 affordable units priced at $395,000? Is that something that you want to handle that one? You understand?
I can handle anything.
Okay.
There's a section in Hawaii Revised Statutes, section 201H. I want to say it's 36. There's a stipulation for general excise tax exemption if your project meets a certain percentage of units priced at a certain affordability. That certain percentage of affordability is less than 140% AMI, and the percentage of units within the project has to be 60%. So we looked at our project and we said, you know what, we'll do an extra 20 single-family units as part of the workforce, and that'll help with construction costs. And we did it. And so what we did was we added 20 single-family units, one and 2-story units, 1,200 to 1,400 square feet, and we threw those into the workforce pool, and that qualified us for a general excise tax exemption.
Awesome. Okay, thank you. I think that answered that question. For Buddy, Kahale Honokowai Rentals, rumor is that the local rentals are now up for sale. Is this a state-owned property? How will this help local affordable rentals for low-income projects?
That particular project is a state-owned and operated project, so we do not have any monitoring with regards to that project. So unfortunately, I can't answer specifics with regards to Honokowai. Was there any, I'm sorry, any of the general questions with regards to
Yes, Kahale Honokowai Rentals, rumors that these local rentals are now up for sale. Is this a state-owned property?
I'm not sure if anybody else on the panel, but I have not heard rumors that they're looking to sell the project.
Okay, it says rumor. So you know how rumors are. Sometimes, I don't know, maybe we'll check with Angus back there later, and he's always been great to follow up for us. Anything that's a state issue.
Joe, what's the name of that project?
It says Kahale Honokowai.
I want to say that may be a HHFDC-owned project, and HHFDC did issue a request for proposal because HHFDC has found that they're having a difficult time maintaining some of their existing buildings. So what they're doing is they're looking to retain land ownership and lease their buildings out to qualified, affordable, low-income, and workforce rental developers / landowner or property owners to oversee the long-term 50, 60-year maintenance of these projects.
And they're going to sell them or keep them in
They're
rental?
going to sell a leasehold interest in the vertical, so the building itself, and retain the land ownership. That's and it's just a proposal. It's just been a request for proposal that hasn't been executed.
Okay. So that gives us that information. Thank you. Another one for you, Buddy. Can you break down the requirements for developments over 10 units besides 25% affordable? What other options are there for developers? Do park credits count instead of 25% affordable?
Yeah, the Chapter 2.6 Maui County Code is the ordinance that oversees development in Maui County. And the trigger of that ordinance is if you are developing 10 or more units in your project. If so, the basic requirement is 25% of however many market rate units that you're doing in the project. However, to the question, are there other ways to satisfy it? Yes, the ordinance does allow for several other options. If the developer purchases housing credits from another developer, they can satisfy it that way. They can also pay an in lieu fee, which is approximately, I believe currently about $248,000 per unit. So depending upon how many units they owed, it would be $248,000 per unit. They pay that in a lump sum cash payment to Maui County. It goes into the Affordable Housing Fund. They can also go to the Maui County Council and try and do a land donation. That would have to be under council consideration with regards to whether or not they'd be willing to accept the land, basically in order to satisfy whatever the requirement is on the developer. So those are the main ways that the ordinance allows you to satisfy your requirement.
Thank you. Now, with no preparation, you guys are handling these questions I'm impressed. Give them a big hand. Don't you think they're doing a great job here? As there's such a here's another question from the audience. As there's such a huge group of homeless being serviced, why are the tenants of Front Street affordable apartments being squeezed out as the original developers are not willing to honor their original 50-year term of affordability? Our working residents will be added to the growing problem. I don't know if anybody on our panel here is ready to handle that or is responsible for an answer to that one. I guess that's just a frustrating question that we'll have to give to Angus. I mean, does anybody want to deal with that one? I didn't think so. I said, are the affordable income statistics given in handouts is household income from homeowners or renters? So the question says, regarding the household income statistics that are given in a handout. I guess there's a handout somewhere that shows about affordable household income statistics. Is quote household income from homeowners or from renters? That's the question. Let's see. How does I decipher that one? Okay.
I'll try and answer that. Actually, when we have our affordable housing, any applicants that come and apply for our services or for housing would have to go according to their income. So it's not about the rent that they pay our homeowners, it's about the income that they actually have through work or other means.
I can clarify that. This handout right here, it says housing in West Maui, and it's on the section that talks about figure 5 median sales price, and then on the back side of that it says figure 6 composition of buyers. Yeah, okay.
It's from the U.S. Census Bureau. It's the data that's put out every year by the U.S. Census Bureau.
From the Census Bureau, is it
Yeah.
for homeowners or for home renters?
It's from homeowners.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. See, we work collaboratively together. You're all unofficially panel members as well. So we get ready for a question. Maud, how many West Maui homeless has your organization found homes for?
So one of the things we have done just this year is subcontracted with the Salvation Army to do outreach services. Our presence in Lahaina was pretty limited. Most of our work is on the central area. So we've just started this partnership. One of the difficulties that they are finding is that they can't find any rental units that are available. So most of the homeless individuals they've worked with have gone into transitional housing. Some have come over to the central side. So I wouldn't, once they come over, we don't keep separate statistics if they come from Lahaina. So we are working on trying to see how we can increase housing availability, but it's very limited on this side.
Okay, so thank you very much, Maud. Let's see now, this was not directed to anybody. I'll put this out to everybody. The question was, who would be able to authorize and subsidize apartments for people who make minimum wage? Who would be able to authorize and subsidize apartments for people who make minimum wage? That's the question. So I don't know how to respond to that one. Does anybody want to take a shot at that?
I'm not sure if the individual asked the question was talking about subsidies for like down payment assistance or initial rental assistance to get into a rental project. Like a lot of times when people look to rent in a project, they don't have, first month's rent and 1 month deposit. So they might look for subsidies that can assist them with, that process. Or if they're looking to purchase a home, to look for first-time home buyers programs that provide, some type of federal assistance towards their down payment. I'm not sure if that answers the question, but that's.
Thank you, buddy.
Sometimes when you have projects, rental projects, senior projects, affordable housing projects, the project will tell you what the subsidy is. They'll tell you that who qualifies. Like for the project that we're interested in providing, it's a senior project, 55 years and older, and it's 30 to 60% of the median income. So it, sometimes it comes with the specifications. Kaloa, you also talked about Kahoma with the percentage rate, right, of median income. So, his comes with, what you're getting into when you go and apply for housing with him and what the percentages are.
Thank you. Buddy, I got another one for you. It says, I know someone who got a Section 8 voucher over 6 months ago, but has not been able to find an affordable place here on the west side. Is there anybody here on the west side who can help her? If so, who is that?
That's a good question, and it's something that we saw a lot of in previous years. What we did through the Department of Housing and Human Concerns, the Housing Division, was we paid, thanks to, and received funding via the Maui County Council, to do a special study to show that basically what was happening was that landlords were realizing that they could rent their units and get a lot more on the open market than they could getting, having someone with a Section 8 voucher. So they were willing to give up the security of knowing that they were going to get that subsidy, that voucher every month from the government, and they were going out to the open market and they were renting it for a lot more than people could afford. Fortunately, this study showed that gap, and we were allowed to then offer more per voucher, and it assisted people with being able to find units. Landlords were more responsive because they were able to, get a little bit more in rent, and that seemed to bridge that gap. However, there are still always circumstances where individuals will, because of situations of work, family, what have you, where they want to live in a specific area and they're set on being in a specific area where sometimes it's difficult to find that landlord and find that unit. And we assist them as best we can, but basically they have to come to a negotiation with the landlord in order to utilize that voucher if they're determined to be, let's say, on the west side or upcountry or in a certain area. We, unfortunately, we don't have any process to go out and seek landlords for them to, to rent from. So that is still a certain problem, but at least with the increased rents, we've been able to bridge that gap a lot, and it's helped a lot.
Well, we come a long way, but there's much more long way to go. I think everybody is in agreement that we're in a hole when it comes time to our need, and what we've got available is really a huge gap. And I just don't know how, if everything was starting today, if we had approvals today, how long would it take before we started really making a significant dent in that need? It's a scary thing. Think about it. I mean, how long is it going to take to get to where we should be? Does anybody want to touch that one?
There's a lot of misconception as well. Maud and Monique, they work really hard with the landlords. They have security deposit and first month's rent. We do as well, but we don't have the housing navigators and the case managers that they do. So they work really hard with the landlords. And so if problems come up, they're working with the landlords to mitigate that problem. And a lot of the Section 8 people, they can't find landlords because the landlords have this misconception about Section 8 vouchers. The other thing is that Section 8 has worked really hard on getting direct deposits to the landlord, so it no longer does it go to the client and then go to the landlord. Now it goes directly to the landlord.
All right, landlords out there, I hope that you'll see that and understand that. Direct deposit into your checking account for your Section 8 tenant sounds pretty exciting to me, and maybe that'll pick up some interest out there. Maud?
So one of the things we've started to do is room sharing, which was not allowed previously. So you can have a 3-bedroom house, say, and have 3 separate leases. And that has allowed some people who couldn't find studios or 1-bedroom units to be housed. We're doing a lot of that now because that is an option, one of the only options we have sometimes when we're in a high rent area.
Does everybody understand what that is? I know a lot of people want to take advantage of that. You've got some people who are retired, they're just using one of their 3 bedrooms, and they got 2 other bedrooms in their house vacant. They'd like to have some extra income. Now they can rent both of those rooms out and get Section 8 paid directly into their checking account from responsible people who would rent those rooms. Retirees income, oh boy, all of a sudden there's a nice income. Think about that. If you already don't have your family living with you and their family too. That's the other problem we have, right? We have everybody's at grandma and grandpa's house living there because they can't find a place for themselves. Another interesting dilemma. Now, our panel members, you've done a phenomenal job here. But now, is there? We have another question here, Tamara. Thank you, Tamara. One more question. For anyone, can you explain more about the AMI and how it works and is calculated? And would area averages be better, especially since some folks make huge incomes? Can you explain more about AMI, how it works and is calculated, and would area average be better, especially since some folks make huge incomes?
I believe AMI, area median income, is a designation, is a federal designation. So there's a whole formula, and I can't explain to you what that formula is because it's pretty complicated, but it's set. And so certain funding sources will require that you use the AMI calculation. We have one source of funding that uses federal poverty level. So it really depends a lot of times on the funding and what is required that you use.
Awesome. Okay, did that,
Joe, let me just add real quick
Okay.
to what it is. So it's a median. It's a median number, which means you have half the population earning above and half the population earning below. It's the midpoint, and that's we use that because averages can often be skewed in one way or the other in areas where you have high inequality. And the pricing is derived more or less for a house. It's more or less, depending on the interest rate, the prevailing rate at that time, the price of a quote-unquote affordable house relative to its area median income is more or less a third of whatever a person's gross monthly income would be. And you do the calculation, okay, you make X amount, a third of that is Y, and if you back the math out, you can afford a certain mortgage with a 10% down payment. That's the price that you can afford. Probably doesn't make sense because, I mean, it makes sense in my head, but when you explain it, obviously it doesn't make sense. If I had a chalkboard and I could write out the formula for you guys. But anyway, the gist of it is it's the midpoint and it's the least skewed, easily usable metric for every county across the state. And it's the numbers themselves, I believe, are given to us by HUD. And maybe you guys look at it and say we got to adjust or whatever. Yeah, okay.
thank you very much, Gloria. We got another question here. What is the average waiting time to receive a Section 8 voucher?
At the present time, thanks in part to the study that I mentioned earlier and us being able to utilize our vouchers, we are at 100%. We basically, about 2 years ago, in Maui County, we can utilize up to 1,464 vouchers in Maui County. About 2 years ago, when I took over as administrator, we were somewhere in the low 1,200s, and that's because we were losing more than we were gaining every month. The net was negative because we were just losing landlords. When we did that study and we were able to increase the amount that we could allow per voucher for individuals to rent homes, things took off from there. We purged a wait list that was over 3,000 individuals over the course, I want to say, of a 6 to 8 month period, and of course, a lot of those, had been on the wait list for 7 or 8 years. So a lot of them were no longer here or for whatever reason. But anyway, we purged the entire wait list and we maximized our 1,464 vouchers. Now we've created a new wait list because obviously we're still going to do what we call call-ups where we have people fall off. We need to continually make sure that we're keeping as close to 100% as we can because that's how we maximize the amount of rents that we can get from the federal government every year. So the wait time right now is not nearly as bad as what it used to be. You used to get on that list and you used to fall into a black hole. But now it's definitely shortened down to, I want to say that if we only probably allow up to about 750 now on the wait list, and hopefully you wouldn't be on it for more than a year to 18 months before you'd have the opportunity to utilize a voucher.
Whoa, okay. That's an improvement, but it's still scary. Okay, well, now, no more questions coming from the audience here. So, panel members, now you've heard each other talk. Isn't this great? You shared each other and you know what's on your mind. Does anybody like to share something that they think would be of interesting information to everybody? Monique?
Thanks, Joe. Since the last time I was here last year, I want to let you guys know some of the changes that we've had in our emergency shelter. So it's pretty exciting. We have a new grant through the state, and that grant helped us to look at the way we processed or the way we did our program. So since I met with you all last year, if you were here last year, we've actually lowered our barriers at our emergency shelter. What that means is we no longer drug test or alcohol test. and say that sobriety has to be a requirement to enter shelter. So you can imagine if you're homeless or if someone's homeless, it's very difficult to be out there on the streets or unsheltered and stay sober for some of them, not for all, but for some of them. So we definitely lowered our barrier so that we can actually bring in more of the homeless population into our shelter than we ever have before. And we took it a step further. So while we say our shelter is drug and alcohol free and it's drugs and alcohol are prohibited, some can't stop themselves from bringing it on property. So we actually work with those individuals and families that are still addicted to some type of substance to help them get the services they need. We use what's called a harm reduction program to really work with them where they're at and help them to look at what does their use mean when it comes to permanent housing or to getting housing. So we've done a lot of good work in that aspect. We're actually also getting ready to open an office from Aloha House. So we've partnered with Aloha House, and we're going to have a mental health counseling component to our shelter. So that component will be opened up to the public for the West Side individuals, but it also will be used for our residents who are at our shelter as well to give them mental health help while they're at our shelter. And then all of our housing specialists work with our residents to get them connected to the community. So what we want is to ensure that our residents aren't dependent upon our shelter for services. So we work with them to get them out into the community, to get them the services that they need. So once they leave our shelter, it's seamless and they have those resources set up for them. So I think that's a very exciting component. One of the other areas that we're looking at doing is adding a dog kennel to our shelters, because one of the hardest things for a homeless person, some of them have animals and pets, and they don't want to leave those pets behind. And so we're actually looking at, and I'm going to partner with hopefully Maui Humane Society and Petco and see if we can get some of those kennels built so that we can bring in the homeless who have animals with them. So I think that's exciting news that I wanted to share with you so that you know that as well. Thank you.
Well, right, don't put that on the mic, because just as you talked about that, we got an interesting question. And that is, so how does your lack of drug testing affect the children on the property? Bringing and using on property has happened at your place, and how have you been handling that?
That's a great question. So actually, what we do is we have unit inspections. So we inspect our dorms, we inspect our units. We let the residents know that that's going to happen. So we have scheduled inspections, and we also have random inspections as well. And usually how we know if someone's using is because there's a behavioral issue. So if someone's using substances on property, they may be disruptive, or maybe they're sleeping, maybe they're falling off a chair sleeping. So there's different behaviors that we'll look at to identify if someone may have an issue, and our staff will work with that individual. And again, if they need some type of substance abuse treatment or intervention, we'll work with them. We also have addiction recovery management program that we have on the facility as well. So when we've identified a resident who is using substances, we will refer them to that program. It's mandatory at that time that they would have to attend. And then it's mostly drug education, relapse prevention. We give them that type of information and education, and then also offer outside resources to them. So if they want to get an assessment or look at going through some type of treatment services, we will offer that to them as well. So we really work hard to keep the children safe and those who are in recovery or those who are not using, because not everyone uses. So we work really hard to keep them safe and the children safe as well. And unfortunately, sometimes we do have residents that just can't stop, don't want to be a part of the program. It's a very small amount. And then we actually will let them know that we're not able to assist them with our program, and they would have to exit. But when they're ready, they can come back. They can always call us and come back.
Thank you. That was very interesting and very informative. And I agree with that procedure. That's awesome. We've got our long-term planning director, Pam Eaton, here, and she. Oh, you want to be anonymous? Okay, I'm sorry. Anonymously, I received a question that said, in the update of the community plan land use designations will be assigned by the community, and this is not zoning. These are areas where the community can decide what they want to see happen. Based on tonight's panel, where would you like to see affordable housing projects located? Does the panel have any idea amongst themselves where they'd like to see affordable housing projects located? Anybody want to handle that one?
I guess I'm probably the best person to ask for this. Or, yeah, obviously the
We'll ask
community too. In fact, I'm happy to let you answer this question.
Well, I'd like to see affordable rentals, not housing, but affordable rentals on the mountainside, 4 stories high, and build 4 of them, and say that anyone who rents there has to prove that they work in West Maui before they can even get into a rental.
Is there any labor provision in the 2.96 rental ordinance?
Well, land use and designations and zoning and land ownership is all different issues. However, I think the important thing to remember here, and this is in the formulation of the community plan, the things that you just said and want can be an input into the community planning process as a desire, if that's what the community wants to have. So the community plan can have some weight, because when people want to make proposals to do things, they say, well, where's that reflected in the community plan? Or if someone's looking to do affordable rentals, they say, what does the community plan say about areas that this would be desirable? You have a very good chance of getting influential information into the process by staying and making sure that the long-range planning department has that input. Thank you for that. To Rep. McKelvey, do you think you could get off the hot seat, or you don't want to be? It says, how can you identify state land as a developer to build affordable rentals?
Well, there's state lands that can be.
You want to come up here? He wasn't prepared, but he's always getting questions wherever he goes, so he's probably ready for that. Thank you.
I mean, there can be lands identified by the state, and that's why it's glad the governor's representative's here, because these agencies can identify those lands. We have to remember a lot of these lands are ceded lands, so the title is not clear. However, I think part of the issue is right now all leases are limited to 30 years by the state. And that's something we at the legislature have been trying to fix, is to extend these leases so you can also get better financing. And one of the big issues facing our citizens is you may have inventory built, but they can't qualify for the financing. And that's something we have to tackle at the state level. And while I'm at it, we really need to force the issue through public policy of community land trust or affordable housing in perpetuity. So looking at the 201H process to insert language that the requirement of affordable homes be tied to a community land trust. A responsible home ownership for those who truly deserve it. You can't flip the units, but yet you can appreciate for your investment in your property. Then you move up to the next home, and then hopefully that next homeowner can come in. And working with the county and with Ellie and hopefully Tamara, that we will have to really get Nahalio on Maui the support it needs. And quite frankly, the other thing we got to look at as a state is we need to look at rent subsidies, and we need to look at decoupling ourselves from some of the federal HUD funding programs that limit and tie our hands. And that's on us in the county. Ideas of revenue, quite frankly, is a conveyance tax. Closing both the loophole in the conveyance tax and perhaps looking at a slight increase for $10 million or more to help fund these types of ideas. But the affordable housing is at a crisis level. I mean, let's be real. It is at a crisis level, and the county and the state have to be bold, but they have to work with developers to provide incentives, but also tie those incentives into perpetuity. Because we can't have I've grown up here, but I'm born and raised. How many developments have come and gone saying it'll be affordable, and it is at first. 5, 10 years down the line, to Ellie's bill, they're now, you can't blame the family. They're going to go ahead and take advantage. They've got college expenses and other things, but you lose that affordable housing. Same with the Front Street apartments and rent subsidies in general. You lose the rentals that are already in place. Building new rentals doesn't work in the net sum game if you're losing the rentals you already have. And looking at the GET tax exemption and some of the other things on the books from our level. And encouraging our federal partners. You're right, the medium income formula works great in Iowa and Illinois, but I don't think it's reflective of West Maui. So we need to urge our congressional delegation through resolution to force the issue of perhaps a new formula or formulas that can be applied perhaps more like the poverty index that will be reflective of the population you're trying to serve. So hopefully that answers the one question and many more. But the thing is, guys, it is our priority. I speak for Roz. She's not here. She's in special session. But every day, this next session, we have to be bold and decisive, but we need all your help in helping to raise a little hell, pardon me. And for the county, our partners, Ellie and everybody, they need their voices, and that's why this ordinance on the Front Street Apartment coming up, it helps us at the state level to pass the bills. And again, the governor's got to get off the bench and be a huge active player, because the executive branch in the state has a lot of power compared to other states and a lot of ability to move these things through their agencies into fruition. So my pledge to you as your representative is to fight for that affordable housing and some of these ideas I've talked about. But we can't do it alone. Nobody paddles the canoe by themselves, right? Maybe a broken surfboard. So with your help, we can do amazing things, but we got to be mad, and people are mad, but now we got to take that anger and frustration and forge it into public policy. So my commitment is to fight for that, along with those who are here tonight. And so, any other questions? I'm right over there, and thank you guys for being here. Thank you for our panel for being here and taking the time out for all the work you guys are doing in our community. Really appreciate it. Mahalo. Sure, what else we got?
Instead of increasing taxes, why can't we try to keep more of our taxes from going to
That's what I do every day, is trying to keep the taxes from going to Honolulu. We do actually get, not to tout any horns, considering our population, we have gotten substantial good funding in the past on many projects. But you're right, we got to continue to fight every day for those resources to come back to Maui. And that's the battle we have. But at the end of the day, anything we do, rent subsidies is going to be a statewide on all islands. And so that's when the revenue picture comes in. How do we pay for these things? There's a lot of things I think we can do on the cutting side. There's a lot of tax credits I think that need to be reviewed that I don't believe are serving their purposes that can be used. But we need to be serious about the end game, which is funding the programs to hopefully put an actual dent in this thing, so that you don't hear about it over and over and over. Meanwhile, when we go out in our communities, nothing happens, and more people hit that threshold and slipping between that line of owning a home and renting in West Maui, or forcing to not only move to the other side of the island, but to move to the mainland. And that's the thing that we have to do. As your rep, sorry. That's what I commit to do to you, and that's why I'm glad Ellie, again, is here, because we have to work together on this, and with all of you guys. So hopefully that answers that question, and is there anything else before I ask? No?
Wow.
No, I just want to say thank you guys for being here. Mahalo, and your voices are important. So please, we're going to need them this session coming up, and so hopefully you'll be able to support us in testimony and letters to the editor and everything else. This issue is hot. People are paying attention because of things like this panel, but also because the people in the community are speaking out. So continue to give us your voice. And a question I think was spurred by that.
Can we text you or phone you or email you?
Text you, phone me, email Rep McKelvey at capital.hawaii.gov. That's the best one to reach me at. And Senator Baker, Sen Baker, and she, Rep McKelvey at capital, CAPITOL, .Hawaii, spelled out, .gov. And ideas are welcome. It's Sen Baker, so SENBAKER at capital.hawaii.gov. And right now we're in the collecting ideas stage, so the ideas you have both on revenue, some of the ideas expressed tonight, or what you think is, is it working, is it not working? That's important. But when the bills hit the floor, when they hit the committees, we're going to need your voices. And so, Joe, thank you for what your organization is doing to help get the word out and help make everybody email blast at Capitol. I think we can do some amazing things finally, but it's sad it took a crisis to get to this level for the state of Hawaii to pay attention, huh? Anyway, mahalo, you guys. Thanks for letting me be here. Aloha.
Thank you very much, Angus. That's awesome. I'm so glad that, I said earlier, I've been working with Angus and Ross for many years, and he's always there to listen and to be of assistance, and I'm really glad he's encouraging us. When we started, Ellie, you weren't here when we started. Would you like to, I'd like to recognize Ellie Cochran, our West Maui representative. Ellie would like to come up and say a few things.
Yeah, pardon my tardiness, everybody, but thank you, thank you, panelists, for all the work you're doing. And I'm so happy that we're all here, under the one roof to build more roofs, I guess, over people's heads. And I do have a handout, and it breaks down 7 different efforts that my office has been working on to create affordable housing. And a lot of it has to do, and I've heard a lot of the comments from some of the panelists tonight about so redefining that word affordable. It's used, it's tossed around all over the place. And again, as Rep McKelvey said, affordable, the HUD guidelines, area median income and all this stuff, it's doesn't match up with Ohio, Illinois, and other places. This is Maui, this is Hawaii, and our cost of living is that much higher and everything else. So my staff has really vetted through those numbers and looked through all those different percentages, and we figured out that if you just would drop the categories down one, so, you know, just take off $10,000 right off the top and then move the 80%, the 60%, all that down a notch would equate to what the people here levels of income are. So that's how we look at it, and I know Buddy and Ms. Ryman have heard me over and over that states that we are not bound and married to HUD numbers when it comes to, you know, the developers or what numbers they need to abide by. It's a it's a standard, and it points to, but we can do better than. We, as a county, as a state, can do this, drop that category, that one level down, in order to meet more the amount of the income that our people here actually, you know, live with and can truly afford. Managed appreciation is the term I've not coined, but anyways, I've turned it different from affordable perpetuity, because that kind of freaks people out. It's like, oh my God, forever and ever affordable. Oh my God, Ellie, what are you trying to do? My main investment in my whole entire life, and you're not going to let me walk away with, you know, quadrupling it? Oh, how dare you? So, you know, this is about keeping affordability for a longer term, basically. So it's not going to flip in 5, 8, 10, 20, 30, 50, 60 years. I'm talking a lot longer than that. I'm talking for multi-generational chances for people to live in an affordable unit, to lay their foundation down, to have that dream of the home and the white picket fence, raise the family, you know, and then you walk away with the money you invested with a little bit, so the next person who moves in can also do the same, and you have now that nice, you know, amount of down payment for your next home, a bigger, you're now having, you know, families growing and what have you. So that's kind of the concept. So it's called managed appreciation. So basically, to try and do two separate types of inventory of housing. Here, you have your market investment list of you know, developments, and then you have this managed appreciation, affordable perpetuity type buildings. So it's very different, and we did base this off of places have already implemented this, such as Aspen, Colorado. Aspen's quite similar to our demographic, as in a resorty kind of town, and people work in the service industry there also, and they've done this. They've been able to get ahead of the curve, ahead of the ball of lack of affordable housing for their workforce. So that's an idea. County-funded infrastructure, we hear it all day long, right? Our developers, it costs so much money to put in the infrastructure, then that cost has to be passed down to the home buyer. So I'm all for, let's help assist with county infrastructure in order to keep our rates lower. Cracking down on the illegal vacation rentals. As I understand, I had been able to put in $80,000 to the past budget. Planning department has finally, I think the RFP has gone out in order to search out a company in order to roll this whole program out. And I really think it's going to do a lot of good and make a difference to find these homes that currently are being rented out for vacation rentals, and we can bring them back into the long-term rental pool. So I'm really, really excited to see this roll out. I'm so thankful for the rest of my council members that saw the light and realized, hey, let's give it a try, because nothing is working the way we're doing it now. So I'm super stoked about that. Increasing density in, you know, in the community, infill projects, being able to do just more in a smaller space, basically, you know. So that's another idea. And then construction on county-owned lands. I know the department helped me in vetting out where all of our county-owned lands are located, our inventory of county lands. We are not land rich, so we have a few spots, and some of them are already designated residential. So yes, I know we're not developers, but I think maybe we might start thinking about along those lines. Because we're not in it for profits, we're in it to house and take care of our community. And bringing construction costs down, of course, streamlining the planning process. Everyone talks about this for forever and ever. But you know, one example is the one-stop shop. And, or a catalog of building permits. You know, it's kind of like the Sears Roebuck of homes or something. And this has already been vetted. It's got, you know, all the dimensions are there. So it's a little quicker process for a developer to go through or, you know, a owner-builder type of project. So things like this, I think we haven't quite nailed it down, but is something that we could work on and help out with the process and getting more things built. But those are just some key points that my office has been working with. And I did hear a little bit about the Front Street apartments as a huge issue here in West Maui. And I believe there's a email of sorts going around and a petition too. And it is in reference to a meeting this Thursday with Housing and Human Transportation's Committee, Stacy Cravello's meeting at 1:30 this Thursday. She's going to be trying to push through a resolution. This resolution is to urge state legislatures such as Mr. McKelvey and others to look into the Front Street apartments to keep it an affordable rental as it is, and perhaps, and there'll be different ways as I take it from House Rep McKelvey, by rental subsidies and things of that nature. So this will help him and others at the state ledge who support the idea to give them a little bit of ammo and sort of the hammer coming from our county. They can take it back to Oahu and say, listen, we're representing the voices and this is what they want us to do. And there's this need and on and on. So I am recommending and highly encouraging people to get involved. And I know a lot of you here already have been very much so with the process and come and testify, send testimony, sign the petition, whatever you can do to show that you support this and want to urge it and to support our state representatives too in order to better our community, but keep our affordable units in affordability. My office is going to go down the eminent domain road, but my office spoke to the chair of Housing and Human, HHT, and she's not quite in favor of it. So I'm not going to, spend a whole lot of energy on something that really isn't going to see the light of day. So she is willing to push this reso. Why not? Let's do it. Let's try it and see where it goes. Maybe somewhere the eminent domain thing can come up again, but at this time, I'd rather not waste my time on something that clearly is not going to go anywhere. So with that, I mean, there's so much more to talk about, and I just want to say thank you for the meeting this evening, and thank you for all your folks' time and all our efforts collectively together that we do to better our community. So thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Ellie. God bless you. Thank you. Well, that's awesome. Now, does anybody, all the politicians have had a chance? Anybody have input to any more questions? Is it time to rock and roll? Can we give them a big round of applause, this wonderful panel? I can't tell you how awesome it is to know and see that 3 years ago, we had a much bigger problem and not even any ideas where we were going to go. We've come a long way. Maui's a special place, special people with a special problem. But together we can make a difference, and we thank you all for your willingness to come here, get educated about it, become part of the solution by getting involved and participating. Participate in the Maui Community Plan, participate in the Maui Homeless Alliance, and support communications with our elected representatives. Thank you very much for your time. Have a good evening, good night, and aloha. We also have food. Anybody want to take plates home? We have so much food. Believe it or not, we've got like at least 25 or 30 plates of food. I think we got volunteers back there that can take food home. Anybody want? It's a delicious food. Hate to see it go to waste. Make sure you stop by there, check it out. I want to thank Akaku for filming. Thank you, Akaku. Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening and aloha.